Today we're going to talk about Manovasrotas, which is the part of the body that governs mental health in Ayurveda. My name is John Immel, and this is what I look like. Manovasrotas literally means mind-carrying channel, and it refers to all of your thoughts and emotions. It refers to your mental and spiritual beliefs, and it's different from your physical nerve tissue in the same way that your psychological health is different from your nerves or from your brain. Of course, your psychological health is heavily dependent upon nerve tissue, but they're not one and the same thing. Your mental health refers to your experiences, your beliefs, your approach in the world, not the physical material. So our way of thinking affects our entire life. And that's why the study of mental health and Manovasrotas is so important. It affects our health, our happiness, our relationships, how we navigate the complex world we live in. It affects our very soul. And modern research shows that psychological health really is a huge factor in health outcomes. There are many studies that have shown the effect of stress and psychological health on physical health. So it's really important to understand how the mind works and how it relates to disease. That conversation is very important. In fact, the topic is essential. And this issue of the mind-body connection is an essential one. An unhealthy body, if your body is not healthy, it is going to be harder to have a healthy mind. But not impossible. But the other way around is never true, right? Like, if your mind is unhealthy, it will always make your body unhealthy. Right? Given enough time, an unhealthy mind will create unhealthy habits, unhealthy ways of living in the world, inability to integrate properly into the world. And so in the same way that a bad leader can drag down an entire country or a company or an organization or a group or even a family, an unhealthy mind will drag down the body. So if you have a very healthy mind, you can overcome a lot of physical illness. And we see many spiritual people who have suffered physically, but were still very joyful, very healthy. Their cells were healthy, even if their body was not. But an unhealthy mind always creates an unhealthy body. So a little asymmetrical there. And here's a little personal story. I was reading a book about the virtue of hope by a philosopher, a famous 20th century philosopher, Joseph Pieper. And I had this total realization about several areas of my life where I was feeling hopeless. And in those areas, I was pouring huge amounts of energy, anxiety, distrust, and that was draining my health and happiness. I was reading this book, and it's not a light read, this book, by the way. It was, a little tough in the beginning to really understand it. But once I kind of, started to understand what he was talking about, it was really an amazing transformation. And I had some new spiritual insights, and I felt like a burden was lifted off of my body. My skin was glowing. It was wonderful and life-giving. I had more energy. I was less tired. These mental change can, really did help my physical body. But the mind is really complex. It's very complex, so it's not obvious how to move forward. It's not obvious how to heal yourself, right? Because we're using our own mind to heal ourselves. And if the mind is the problem, well, how do you use a broken mind to fix itself? So the mental health industry, in a way, is a little bit of a paradox, because even our choice of where to get mental health is a choice made by the broken mind, right? So like where we think mental health is, or where we think we're going to get a solution is dependent upon the answer given by that broken mind. And so it's a little bit, self-help, and mental health improvement can sometimes be a bit of a contradiction or a paradox. So it's complex. The mind is very complex. Our experiences are complex. There are many different ways of assessing the mind in different traditions. And so norms for mental health are heavily influenced even by culture, right? Like when you close your eyes and imagine a mentally healthy person, what you're imagining is what, in most cases, is something that's influenced by your culture and how you grew up and the people you hang out with, influence what we think of as being healthy. So, we really have to, in some ways we have to study the mind, but also we have to get out of our mind to get it right too. And, well, it is, it's difficult. But we're on the journey, and it's an exciting journey, and it's a great journey, and, we're going to try our best, right? That's what we can do, is we can try our best. All right. So in Ayurveda, views Manovasrotas as pervading the entire body, meaning the entire body is infused with your mind. The mind is not just in the brain. The brain may be the control tower of the nervous system, but as you can see in the picture, that there's the mind is sort of infusing the whole body, right? The nerves are traveling to every part of our body, and so there's a little connection to the mind from every single point in ourselves. So the whole body is really involved in our awareness, right? My awareness of the environment. I can feel the floor with my foot. I can feel the air because I'm wearing a t-shirt right now. I can feel the air on my arms, and every sensation, every part of our body has sensation. Every part of our body has an influence on the mind, and the mind has an influence on the body. And it's wholly interconnected, right? It's not that we have a body, a mind, and a spirit, and they're all separate things. In Ayurveda, those are all one and the same things. The body, mind, and spirit are kind of all go together in this holistic way. That is, that integration, I think, is important. So dealing with psychological health issues in Ayurveda treats the whole body as a part of it. Right, so if an Ayurveda mental health counselor or something like that, if there was a degree for that, I would imagine that person would be, working with the whole body, the whole person when they're dealing with psychological health. We only have 5 little tiny windows to see the world: our eyes, our ears, our nose, our taste buds, and our sense of touch. These are the ways that we experience the world around us with the windows. And so the sense organs have been compared to a periscope coming out of a submarine, right? Like our self is somehow inside of us, and our self, reaches out and experiences the world around us through the sense organs. And, and we see, there's a lot of reality we don't know. Truth is immense. It's infinite. If we could fill up a library with, the knowledge, or with all knowledge, it would be an infinite library, right? Down to every atom and molecule. There's just lots of things going on. So our mind can't capture all of reality, but it does its darndest best to get as much of it as it can. And from that, it forms a picture of the whole. Right, and this, we always underappreciate the gift of imagination. Get that, not just imagination of dreaming new things, but even the fact that we can take a small piece of reality and imagine the whole from that is a really great and incredible faculty of the mind that we should just all take a moment to really appreciate. Computers can't do that, right? They can't form a picture of the whole from a part, but their minds can. And And so without the mind, we really don't know anything about the world. And really I want to say without the sense organs too, right? That contact with the world is the source, the primary source of our knowledge. Sometimes people talk about divine revelation too, things that don't come from contact with the world. And so, we should consider that as well. The 6 systems of Indian philosophy, Shad Darshan, they place heavy emphasis on the mind's love for truth. There's just a strong tradition of paying attention to consciousness, awareness. Like if you study Indian philosophy and spirituality, those words are going to come up all the time. So I think Manavasrotas is really heavily emphasized in Indian philosophy and spirituality. And, continuing on this theme of, why we should be concerned with and think about Manavasrotas, in particular, in Ayurveda, 2 of the 3 main causes of disease come from the mind. Right? Think about that. And especially in relation to Western medicine, where it's like always about the bacteria or always about the, sort of what happened to you physically. In Ayurveda, it's always about, or at least 2 out of 3 times, or 2 of the 3 main causes of disease are considered to be based on mental health in Ayurveda. And the first, Asat Mendriyartha Samyoga, meaning misuse of the senses, such as overeating despite feeling full. And you see this person looks like they've eaten a little too much on their Thanksgiving dinner. I'm assuming it's a Thanksgiving dinner there because I see some fall foliage. But overeating despite the fact that you're full. Misuse of your senses. Your body's giving you an experience, you're ignoring it. Putting the TV or music on too loud. You feel it's hurting your ears, or you're listening to really loud music and you don't turn it down. Your eyes are feeling really tired, but you keep reading or looking at a computer screen. This is all misuse of the senses. And then we have the crimes against wisdom, pranya parad, which is where you know something is hurtful and you just do it anyway. Like knowing you're intolerant to gluten, but you just keep eating bread that has gluten in it. Or that alcohol gives you a migraine, but you drink it. Or that, you feel better when you go to bed by 10 p.m., but you stay up until midnight anyways, right? These are poor choices that go against your own knowledge, right? Your own better knowledge. And we all, our instincts are often at war with each other. Our bodies, of course, and our will, the faculty of our will is always trying to make the best choice for ourselves. But there's lots of influences internally and externally that cause us to make bad decisions, and we just have to, keep working at it, right? It's hard. It's hard for me, hard for you. By the way, the 3rd cause of disease is seasonal variations, parinama. As the seasons change, it influences the doshas, causes a shift in your body, and you can get sick. That's the 3 main causes of disease. It doesn't mean that Ayurveda doesn't acknowledge other causes. Ayurveda does acknowledge more than 3 causes, but these are the 3 main ones. So we have to adapt our lifestyle and diet to the seasons as well. Let's talk about some functions of Manavasrotas. The first and main one is to form an accurate representation of reality, right? Our mind is there to help us be prudent, to help us make prudent decisions, right? So as a part of that is we have to have an accurate representation of reality, and then we have to use that representation for our own good. We have to basically use the mind should help us successfully navigate the world. Now, I don't mean to say that the mind should always be, selfish in the superficial sense, right? But on some level, our mind is the tool that's there to help us successfully navigate the world. And I mean that in the higher spiritual sense of that word, successful. So to use our perception to craft a successful response, to create goals, and also to ask the right questions. I think a big source of mental illness is having curiosity about things that aren't good for you, and lacking curiosity about things that are good for you. There's this strange perversion that happens where we think oh, good is boring, right? But actually, it's like anything but, right? Like the good things that are good for us in the end are that's what create joy, happiness, etc. But sometimes, good things get a bad rap, right? They can appear banal or cliches or, and so we end up having this curiosity for the strange and unusual, even if we know that it may not be healthy. So asking the right questions at the right time, having a healthy curiosity for good things, and avoiding excessive curiosity for things that can hurt you, is a part of that mental health, cultivating that mental health. The mind also has to operate heavily on intuition. Now, this doesn't mean we should only operate on intuition. Of course, our knowledge is our tether and connection to reality, but we often have to make these leaps of faith in our in our everyday life. So our intuition refers to the mystical aspect of the mind, the ability to understand something right away, without the need for conscious reasoning, or even without having all the knowledge, right? We can't have all the knowledge. Knowledge is infinite. So we may know or be aware of something instinctively without thinking about it. We can have a gut feeling about something, and oftentimes we have to trust that, or at least say, hey, I'm getting this feeling. Maybe I should slow down a little bit. Or sometimes we'll say, you know what? I gotta just take the leap, and then we have to speed up a little bit too, right? It's it's this interesting part of the mind where we have to make a decision with imperfect knowledge. Dr. Loud outlines these different functions of Manavasrotas for anyone who's wants to know his perspective on it. You can pause on the slide and go through each of these in turn. All right. Let's see. One more thing I want to say about, there's this idea in Ayurveda that just as we digest food, we digest our thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And so what does that mean? That means to come to a conclusion about what our thoughts, feelings, and emotions really mean, right? Because that's what the mind is all about, meaning. Right? We're not trying to get to this point where we don't feel the emotion anymore, or where we come to this idea that the thought is an illusion, or not real, or that it is real, or whatever, right? We want to know is exactly how real the thought is, exactly how real the feeling is, exactly how real the emotion is. We don't want to have too much emotion or too little. We don't want to, nurture a false thought. And so we want, in digesting a thought, our thoughts, feelings, and emotions, what we're coming to is a true appreciation of the meaning of it. And so that is, that is what our mind, that's the process of our mental agni, or mental digestion.